Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's we'll be reviewing this lifted Land Cruiser. I think you guys are really going to like this build. Before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to the Alpine Overland here in Sandy, Utah for giving me some time with this Land Cruiser. So this particular one is currently available for sale, so if you happen to be interested, I'll put a link to their website in the description down below. Just so you guys know, they're not only just a dealership, but they also build out vehicles just like this. So if you happen to own something like this Land Cruiser and you want it to get built out, you can reach out to them about that. Or if you want to buy some of their inventory, again, link to their website in the description. Let's get into it. So first off, quick refresher, the new Land Cruiser is powered by a turbo 2.4 liter 4-cylinder hybrid. Goes through an 8-speed. It puts out 326 horsepower and then 465 pound-feet of torque. Now before we move forward with this review, I do want to mention, if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. Now this build is built off of what I call a mid-trim Land Cruiser. This is the package that originally was between the 1958 and the first edition for 25. The mid-trim is the top of the line if you get the premium package with it. But anyways, this one's Heritage Blue and I think it looks really sharp. When it comes to tires and wheels, 285 by 75 by 18 in the front and over in the rear. So that means this is a 34.8, so basically a 35-inch tall tire. You can see the TRD wheels. I think these look really sharp with the Land Cruiser build. Now this does have a Dobinson lift, and you guys can see the remote reservoir shocks as well. They also upgraded the upper control arm. Basically the recommendation is once you go above like 2 to 2.5 inches of lift, then you want to upgrade the upper control arms with a lot of vehicles. Again, it's gonna vary on the type of lift and all that kind of stuff, but really cool setup. And here's a quick look at those remote reservoirs in the rear. And this is the overall stance that this gives the Land Cruiser, and I think this looks absolutely fantastic. And just to give you guys an idea of the height of this, you can see this Tundra, and that Tundra actually might have a little bit of a lift too, but I mean this thing just towers over it. It's really cool. Now we also have a roof rack added to this, and it's got 360-degree lighting, so you can see the little light bar there, and then if we pop out back more as well, and then up front on top of that. So it's going to add practicality when it comes to overlanding. Now quick look at the interior here with the mid-trim, really nice throughout. This is the same as the premium in terms of like the materials and all of that, like you get the nice trim on the dash and everything. This is for the lights. It's really cool actually. So it's just sticks onto the steering wheel setup right there. You just clip it in, so it makes it really user-friendly. 360 camera system with this, and then with the mid-trim, something that's important off-road is you get the center and the rear locking differential that you get on the 1958, but you also get the stabilizer bar disconnect, and you get the crawl control with multi-terrain select and all of that, so it has a lot of nice features. No sunroof, which a sunroof would be pointless on this particular one because of the roof rack that you have up top. So let's take this Land Cruiser out and see how it performs. By the way, not hard to get in at all. The grab handle helps out. You do have to step up though, but I mean, it's a lifted vehicle, so kind of expected. Now in reverse, by the way, full crank, no rubbing. That's typically, like if a car is going to, sometimes they'll rub, you know, full crank going forward, but typically the first place that, in my experience, where a vehicle rubs is usually reverse full crank. So really good setup with the swing and the offset and everything. That's one of the things that's hard about lifting vehicles is there's just so much going on, right? You know, wheel offset is going to affect things, tire width is going to affect things, you know, droop, wheel trap, like there's just so much. It's very, very complicated. So it's always impressive when companies are able to get something done. What I will say right off the bat is I'm surprised at how slow this doesn't feel. Like it seems like this is not struggling whatsoever to move these. Again, these are basically 35s. So a 285 by 75 by 18 is 34.8 inches tall. And most manufacturers, by the way, if that's what their tire size is, they're gonna call it a 35 in their marketing and everything. Like they'll just round up with it. So yeah. Oh yeah, not struggling at all. I mean, you can tell that it's having to work more than, like I've got 33s on my Land Cruiser, Pizza Cutter 33s, and I can tell you it is working more than mine has to work to get up and move, but it's not bad at all. And the suspension with this is actually better than stock. That's concerning. The reason why I say that's concerning is it's concerning for my bank account. Yeah, it really does. Sorry, I'm gonna turn this off. Wrong button. There we go. Don't need AC. Yeah, I don't know. It feels really nice. And something to note, and I will do a review on the regular and the premium Land, just like stock vehicles. This just regular mid-trim, I think, is the way to go with the Land Cruisers, because this interior is just as nice. Like, I've got a first edition, and this is just as nice as my, and it's literally the same materials, pretty much. I mean, the seats of mine are a little bit more stylized, but, yeah. This is more than nice enough. Turn-in's really good, too. Yeah, like, it doesn't, sometimes lifted vehicles, right, can have quite a bit of body roll. Not the case with this. Yeah, again, the torque is great. It doesn't seem like it struggles at all. No weird shimmying either. The reason I mention that is, again, lifted vehicles, especially with, this has independent front suspension. Explain this the best that I can, but a lot of times they'll sacrifice wheel travel overall, well, basically down travel, I mean, for the lift. What they'll do is they'll just extend the front end down, so then you have less down travel, but then the vehicle sits higher, so then you can fit the bigger tires and everything. But then what that feels like on road and off road is not great. Off road doesn't articulate as well. You get kind of tippy earlier, and then on road you feel like you kind of skip around a little bit, but it doesn't. I don't think they sacrifice that with this. I've looked into Old Man Emu, Dobinson as well, and it seems like they do a pretty good job with their lifts, because they don't go too crazy high with a lot of them. And then what they'll do is they'll just increase overall wheel travel, so even though you're kind of changing the range, there's still an increase in, there's an overall increase in down travel, so you don't really have to sacrifice anything. I'd have to do, you'd obviously have to do measurements and everything to see, but I can just tell you from the seat of my pants, it handles well and it doesn't skip or anything. Yeah, it's not that much slower than stock. It's really not bad. Man, it's a really nice ride. I don't feel like you can see anything with this, other than, your fuel economy is not going to be quite as good as stock, obviously, with the bigger tires. And then, with the higher ride height, getting in and out is going to be a little bit more. So maybe, they make I don't know if they have them yet for the new 250, but for the 200 series, they made a lot of, those step sliders. I'm sure that someone will have something out with this 250 sooner rather than later, if they don't already. Yeah, this just feels dialed. It drives really well. I'm going to turn into this little driveway here. I just want to try to go through a little dip, just to, again, just to test it out. We don't have like an off-road course or anything here in the middle of Salt Lake, or I should say Sandy rather, to see how the suspension performs. Gotta make do with what we have. Okay, we'll just see here. Yeah, it doesn't feel stiff or anything. It feels pretty similar to stock. And I think these shocks are adjustable, so you can make them softer or firmer if you want to. This is a nice setup. Yeah, so I don't think there's any downside to this. Other than, like I said, fuel economy and ride height, getting in and out, but that's kind of like a typical when you lift a vehicle. So let me you guys think about this setup, but I think this was done really well. I'm really impressed because I review a lot of cars, and I review, you know, lifted cars quite often, and a lot of them just drive like crap. But this drives really well. Like, it just feels like this just makes sense. Now that I'm looking at my Land Cruiser, looks like such a pipsqueak. And again, those are 30, I got 33s on those. That's crazy. So let me know what you guys think about this lifted Land Cruiser. But if you do things, if you spend money in the right places, like what has happened here, you do things right, then it drives really well. And look at that too. Like, you don't, there's no concession with the turning radius or anything like that. Like, this is dialed in.